Hey guys, how's everybody doing today? Happy Tuesday. Hey, so today I'm live with Lisa. I'm so excited to chat with the amazing, talented actor, singer, dancer, Harry Shum Jr. And Harry's been in all these amazing projects from hit shows like Glee and Shadowhunters, and he was in the movie Crazy Rich Asians, which was a mega hit. And then he's out, and there's a movie on Amazon Prime called All My Life that Harry stars in right now. And we're going to talk to him about his journey and how he became an actor. So I'm very excited. So thank you guys for all tuning in. So let me see if I can connect with Harry. Yay!
Hello.
Hi, Harry. How are you?
Hi, Lisa. How are you?
I'm good. So nice to see you.
Me too. Oh, sorry, making sure I don't look like a straight up talking head. So.
Oh, yeah, there you go. I know. How's everything going? Is it going okay?
Good. You know, as good as it can be, given the circumstances. But you know, you're just adapting and just making sure that you know, you're healthy and your mind is healthy, and so good.
The most important things, right? Our mind's healthy, we're healthy, our families are healthy, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm so excited that you're going to do this with me because I'm such a fan. But you have a lot of fans, but you're such a great actor, and I know we met, many moons ago. And so I'm very excited because I love helping and inspiring actors. So this is awesome.
Yeah, this is wonderful that you're doing this. I mean, you know, when you reached out, I think it's important. You know, I think especially with this industry, there's not one way of getting to wherever you want to go with this. I mean, there's so many avenues, right? I mean, before it was just, you know, you being on the big screen, and that is not it anymore.
No.
There's so many different ways to just do what you're passionate about and what you want to do, and it's just nice to know that you're not just reaching for that one thing that everyone's reaching for, and I think that is what's helpful with what you're doing, because it just allows this conversation to happen. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, that's awesome. I love that. I love to help actors. So the thing I love about this is I'm talking to actors who, talk about how they got there and their successful path. So that's what they did, and everybody's different. Just like you said, it's always a different journey for everybody. So all right. So let's start with first where you're from originally.
I am from the coast of Costa Rica, the east coast of Costa Rica. I was born in San Jose, but I didn't grow until I was 4 or 5 years old. I grew up in Puerto Limon, which is on the east side of Costa Rica, and then migrated to America, to San Francisco, and then did most of my I look at it as like actually really growing up in Central Coast, which is San Luis Obispo area. I don't know if people know where that is, but if not, it's a beautiful place to visit.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place.
Right off the beach. But I did a lot of my learning, a lot of getting to know myself, and kind of really introduced to the arts in that way over there.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, and then now I know that we chatted and you told me you didn't initially start out wanting to be an actor. That wasn't sort of your plan or whatever when you were in middle school. So tell everybody about what happened, like what happened when you walked by a drama class.
Yeah, I think, I used to look at kids like they were crazy when they're like, I want to be an actor. I'm like, really? Okay, that seems like a really too big of a dream. That's I think in my mind I was like, that's too big of a dream to want to achieve. I was just like, in my mind I just wanted to, being in like being a foreigner kind of in this country, just learning the ways of people that are around me. That's what I was fascinated with, and in in hindsight now, looking at it, like that actually informed me a lot and kind of like my choices as an actor, because I got to know so many different people that didn't look like me, that didn't exactly have the same background as me, but that was my focus during that time. And so like what I wanted to do, or my hobbies, were kind of very secondary. It's just like, can I be accepted by people outside of me, and can I accept them? And but the funny thing is I just didn't have any hobbies, and I remember when I changed electives, I started off doing. I was in this like radio elective, like you had to learn how to do like radio. You got to make your own radio show, which was really
Right.
fun. But it was something that I was like, I want to perform, and I didn't know I wanted to. So I walked by this drama class, and I remember they just had the best time. They were laughing, they were like jumping around, being goofy, and I was like, well, I want to be goofy too. Not the idea of wanting to be an actor. And then I ended up changing electives, and the first thing we did was they had an improv kind of session, and I didn't know what improv was. It was just like, be free, just listen and do whatever your heart or your mind. It's just your body tells you. So I was like, okay. So I went up and I did this really weird cheerleading kind of like skit that just didn't make sense at all, but a lot of people laughed and a lot of people had a good time watching it. And then the teacher ended up asking me to perform in an assembly in front of 300-400 people. And that was my first time performing. And I had a blast, and I had no nerves. It felt comfortable. So from then on, I just thought that this is something that I want to like keep pursuing, even though people are telling me not to. I'm glad I listened to the other people that kind of really encouraged me during that time.
Okay, that's amazing. I love that story because it wasn't like you thought about it. You just go, I'm going to go do this. And you didn't really have any like inhibitions about it. It sounds like you just went and said, yeah, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, it's
right?
interesting. Yeah, because I think a lot of times it also speaks to, when you really look at the root of it, it felt like it was a natural occurring thing. It was a natural organic thing that happened. I didn't try and force my way into something that maybe I wasn't quite prepared to do. And even though at that moment I wasn't really prepared, but I think the fact that it just like kind of naturally happened, and that's kind of how I really looked at a lot of things, when you just don't force your way into too many situations, and some beautiful things can happen when you just let it be. And I think it speaks to, I don't know if we're rolling over to the next thing, but it also speaks to like patience with actors, right? Because that is the hardest
for
part.
sure.
It's like, when I want it now and I want it here, and why isn't it here?
Yeah, is that the truth, right? Everybody's like, oh yeah, what? I didn't get a lead in a series and I just started yesterday.
Yeah. It's hard. I mean, even a lot of people into the middle age of just now getting the opportunities, and sometimes it speaks to the experience, and are you in your own way? I mean, there's so many things, right? I think it's like figuring out what is the most effective way for you as a human being, as a person.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a marathon. It's not a sprint, as we've talked about, and I talk about all the time with actors. It takes persistence, takes hard work. So, which we'll talk about. Now, let me ask you, when you were in junior high, I know you practiced the Odyssey of the Mind techniques, which is about creative problem solving. And can you talk about how this helped you as an actor and dancing and singing, and how you use it, or how you use it today, or how you did use it?
Yeah, Odyssey of the Mind is such a wonderful program. I got into it in 7th grade, and I didn't even know how it was actually helpful. Like, it was just something that I was like, this is interesting, problem solving. I'd rather problem solve this than problem solve in a math class. So that's what really, I was like, oh, if I can spend my time doing this instead of doing that thing that I had no interest in, let me do that. And the fact that you got to use, you got to perform and create a story and a narrative while also trying to solve this problem. Ours was particularly like, was find a creative way of how certain things got invented, like a Q-tip. Like, how did the Q-tip get invented? And you could find a fantastical way of how it was invented. So we built this story of this man, all this whole town that they couldn't hear, and they couldn't ever hear each other. So we figured out this guy, he journeyed up to try and find a way to solve this problem, and he climbed this mountain, defeating like monsters and things, and then finally got to the top holding a stick, and then he shoved it up into the clouds and then twirled it, and then created these like Q-tips that he brought back down and allowed people to take the ear. It was just like like a fun way to tell that story, even though it's not true. But that's storytelling, right? It's just some way to kind of, and a lot of times what people don't realize is maybe in the younger generation, but like, you know, scientists have to be creative as well, like in order to find breakthroughs and in certain studies that they're trying, like it's just, it plays into a bigger part of just for actors, right? And that's what I learned about, like, well, if you can look outside of just trying to be an actor and find what other humans are doing, because at the end of the day you're acting like another human, and that you know, so we have to get outside of it and just study humans as opposed to study just the art of acting.
Totally. That is really good, because, you know, it's really important, you know, for actors, especially anybody who's starting out, to be well-rounded, right? So, you know, be well-rounded as actors, whether it's go play baseball and football and go dance and go sing and go like take a painting class, do other things, you know, play tennis, whatever it is. Because I think any experience in life that you get, that's going to help you when you go to acting. So I love
absolutely.
that. That's really awesome. Now, how did you go, like, because I know you did like theater, right? So you started doing theater, right, in middle school and that's what you started doing some theater, correct?
Yeah, I started doing some theater. Again, I'm like, I was so ignorant to like what the whole process was. Like, I just didn't know. Like, I remember just get handed like a script and be like, okay, this is the part you're playing. And I didn't know the idea of auditioning or like trying to get a part. And I also was doing speech and debate. So humorous interpretation which is one of the categories, helped me to kind of hone those skills of like being comfortable with structure and trying to figure out how to make sense of what's in front of me and kind of interpret it in my own way. But I just remember one of the first shows that we did, I was just a background actor. You know, I got handed this part, and I remember I was like, well, I'm gonna kill this. Like, I'm gonna go 100% on this, even though it's not a lead role. And that was just in my mind. I was like, this is fun. And I remember during rehearsals, I learned to not try and upstage, because that was a big thing. It's like, you play your role. But I learned how to like make it realistic. And I remember the teacher saying, like, it was my first compliment, he's like, look at Harry, he's a background actor, but he's just doing enough to like at least fill the environment. And I learned a lot about just playing those different roles, as opposed to, I think, someone who just gets a lead role right away and never does anything else outside of that. I think it's a little harder to grasp the importance of like what everyone's role is, right? It's kind of just like being in the shoes of someone else. And so throughout that process, I kind of learned and did a couple more, like even in the professional world, I did a lot of extra jobs as well. So I learned the process through that. And I think for me, those little things actually really helped kind of inform me on not just like how to be on set, but at the same time, like just knowing what your role is in the whole system, in the whole like process of well, what we're talking about, filmmaking, right?
Yeah, definitely. Good advice for sure, because people should know, like, they should be educated, you know, as you're doing it. So that was a great way for you to get educated, by doing background work and being on sets, right? And doing that and doing in theater. Now, how did you transition? Like, how did you transition from going, you know, doing theater and doing these things into getting like professional acting jobs?
right after I did that, I started really. I remember we did a musical in junior high that was called DuckTales and Bobby Socks, and it was one of those that they did every single year, and there was swing dancing involved, and that was the first time I got really introduced to dance, and had a
Okay.
choreographer teach us and work with us, and that was huge for me because I was never exposed to that properly. It was more dance in your room, watch music videos, and then just do it for fun. But this one, I was like, I have to perform properly, and from then on, I kind of caught the bug. I was like, this is really great. I just loved watching dance. Anytime there was a dancer anywhere, my eyes would go to them, and I started watching a lot of music videos and kind of learning dances through that. And we started performing in different places in high school. And then instead of going to college, I decided to go to LA and just try and pursue a dance career, not even an acting career, dance career.
Wow.
And that I was really great because first of all, no one knows what they're doing. Everyone says that they know what they're doing. They really don't know what they're doing. And I didn't know what I was doing. And I just remember I was in a dance class, and these choreographers came up and excuse me, and just said, "Hey, we really like your style. We like what you're doing." I was like, "Really?" I'm like flailing. I feel like I'm flailing. They're like, "No, no, we like your style. Would you like to go on tour with this artist in Europe?" And I was like, "I've never been to Europe." I was like, "What is going on here? Is this what happens in LA?" And then I went on tour for like 2 months, didn't even unpack my bags. And then I was like, "Yeah, I'm in. I'm in." And I didn't work for like 7, 8 months. I was just thinking like, I got lucky at the end of the day. I got lucky.
Right.
And then I just danced for 6, 7 years of my life. That was like my career. That was what I was just trying to pursue. And in terms of like acting, I would get little one-liners. Like I was on this show called Boston Public. I got like one line,
Right.
and I was a dancer on it. And so I would start getting these other like acting gigs that weren't really that I wasn't. I felt like they were like co-stars, but it was just trying to use my dance abilities. And then
Right.
obviously Glee happened, and that was a big changing point in my life. But I contribute to a lot of my experience to the dance career because I got to be in the background watching how the process worked,
Right.
and not feel like I was fully in it, but almost like a observer, but still part of the production. And I thought that was the neatest experience because you were in certain aspects, you're kind of invisible to a
Yeah.
lot of people in the production, but you still played a big a part of the production. And and acting was always something that at the end of the day I realized like, well, that's actually what I wanted to do, but I'm glad I got this dance
Right.
bug out of me as far as the industry goes.
So Glee was your first like big part then. Like you did a lot of little parts, you're saying and stuff, but Glee was the first thing that sort of that was turned your career basically. That was
Yeah, absolutely. There's two things that I think Step Up 2 was the first like movie that I was a part of that was
right.
like a character, it had a name. And then, Glee happened, and obviously it really opened up many doors, many avenues, and just learning about this process of everyone who was part of that was, high caliber talent, and seeing them
Yeah.
work was truly a masterclass for sure.
And I loved that show so much. I mean, it was just I'm a musical person. I love musicals. So that show, I was like, oh my God, I wish I was casting that show. That's I loved Glee. It was so fun. Oh my God, such an amazing cast. And speaking of that, now you part of your deal was even though you were doing Glee and you were playing, your Mike Chang on there, you did short films while you were doing Glee. You auditioned there and you did a bunch of short films, right? So how did you like you kept deciding you're going to expand yourself as an actor and keep creating new opportunities so you weren't known for one type of role. Right? Isn't that
Yeah.
what? Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the power that actors have now more than ever before. And even back in the days, it was like a new thing. Like I think like even doing anything on YouTube was not a new thing, but I think for anyone who was on TV or in movies was a new thing to go on YouTube during that time because it was
Oh
just like
yeah.
that. Well, let's separate that. Let's not do the same. And I loved consuming content from everywhere. And during that time, also like with Glee, I wasn't. It took a long time to actually get even lines, on that show. Like I was on the part of the biggest show, and it was almost like pulling tooth and nail to like even try and get any speaking, any dialogue in that or a storyline. And so that came from the frustration of that of like, well, I'm gonna give my 100% to this show, but I also am not getting everything that I feel like I can that I can contribute. So I seeked out different content creators, and specifically like one Wong Fu and this guy named Ross Ching, and like these different ones content creators I really enjoyed, and reached out and said like, hey, would you like to do some shorts? And we
Wow.
started doing shorts that kind of like were more comedic. One of them was like more action based, and there's a couple like drama ones. So it became like almost like what you would do for real, right? But I was like, but you're actually just putting it out for the rest of the world, and you're working some really interesting, I would call them filmmakers, and at the end of the day, really that especially what they've become. And that really kind of helped, I guess, flex my muscles, but also I learned a lot through that process. But also, you're also being proactive,
Yeah.
and not being complacent. Even if you're on the biggest show in the world, you're still trying to seek ways to kind of just still be an artist, and not just be known for that one thing.
Right, absolutely. And that, Harry, that's so important because actors, no matter what, you have to stay proactive. It's not a business where you should sit back unless you become a megastar. But otherwise, it's like you got to stay proactive because otherwise, sitting around and waiting for a phone to ring is the worst, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And this whole like idea of like, I think we're living in a world right now where comparing is in front of our faces like 24/7. Like before, you could compare, and then you could find inspiration at the same time because it wasn't in your face, so you can have time to think about it. Like, I'm inspired by that person, instead of like, do I need to be doing that too?
Right.
Now it's just like an assault of like, compare, like, you should be doing this, this person's doing that, this person's doing this. It's like a highlight reel for everyone constantly. And I think actors need to realize that you need to settle in that space of like continue being inspired. And that's what I was inspired by the people on set. I was inspired by certain people doing amazing things outside of that project, and I was like, well, I want to do that. Maybe I can't quite get there. Let me find my way of doing that is
Right.
suitable for me at this moment in my career. And I found that, and people, and that was really cool during that time. And I just think like, being proactive is also settling in, and like analyzing and auditing where you're at right now too, and not just thinking about like ahead, like what should I be doing next. Like, settle down and audit what you've been doing in your life right now in your career, and meaning just, are you doing the necessary things that will help you right now, as opposed to always thinking about what can I do for the next day. And I think that's part of living in the present while also looking to the future. And you could do both, and it doesn't have to be one or the other.
Yeah, definitely. That's so important. I agree with you 100%. It's like 100% because you're looking at where are you right now? And, everybody has the big picture, but it's like, do those steps, do things that you can do. And, like you said, like you said, back when they were doing Glee, YouTube was not as popular as now. And there's so many avenues for actors and artists to create, right? We have so many more ways to get product out there and seen. So good for you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I also want to say, I remember, we talked about this, but the first time I met you, it was in for a role, and excuse me, I don't quite remember the exact role, but I just remember during that time, this was about probably like 8 years ago, nine, maybe
Yeah, maybe
10. I
9
don't
or
know,
10,
10. No,
something
over
like
over 10.
that.
No, wait, over 10, over 10.
Yeah, I think it was
So
over 10. Yeah.
it
It was
was
for
it was
a
during the time
movie.
where,
I remember
okay,
this movie. So
yeah,
go ahead.
obviously I didn't get it, and,
I,
and,
yeah,
and no,
that's a
yeah.
bummer though now.
No, but I just remember during that time, and I remember what I remember distinctly is during that time when I was auditioning, I was so stressed and worried about looking right, saying the words properly. Everything was like I had needs to be word perfect, and so, in some ways, certain casting directors and obviously directors they ask for that, but like that was just the only thing I was stressing about. That I forgot what to bring to it. I forgot what I needed to do to that made me who I am and unique. And at the end of the day, why anyone really cast people is they find something that's unique and different, or like that says like, oh, this is very interesting, and not just like. And I never knew that. No one. I feel like acting classes they kind of tell you that to a certain degree, but they just focus so much on the technique that we're forgetting to be human. I think there's no technique to be human. It's just like it's just be right. And I wasn't really present that I probably was looking down at the page. You probably saw at the top of my head the whole
No.
time. You know what I mean? There's so I'm just saying like that
Yeah.
like so I barely remember that moment. That's the problem. I should remember all these moments, and I remember there was a big phase where I forgot where I was in like certain offices just because that's all I was thinking about and not actually being present and seeing my environment, using that environment to kind of do what I needed to do.
Yeah, you know what? I know we talked about that a little bit. And so, how did you handle that? Like, what's your tip for actors on that? Like, you're right. Actors get so worried about, oh, my lines and this, that they forget to bring your unique self to the role, and also to experience the people in the room and enjoy it, have fun,
Yeah.
all of that. It's like it's fun, have fun. I get it, can be nerve-wracking and people get nervous, but it should be fun. So how did you figure it out finally? Like, what made you finally aware, oh, I'm doing this and I'm not in the moment bringing my uniqueness to it? How did you
Hmm.
finally figure it out?
I think it's I would love to hear your perspective too on as a casting director, but like I think it's a bigger thing than just like your acting career. I think it's you as a person and how there's some soul searching you need to do on being comfortable with yourself. I don't think at that time I was comfortable with who I was, so I
Right.
wasn't allowing myself to present myself or through the characters that were in front of me. So like I think the best thing, and no matter what any actor says, like there's a little bit of them in every character, and it might be the smallest thing that they've really stretched out and really like painted differently and did a lot of work to make it look like it's so far from them who they are, right? But I think you will always contribute, or your robot, because all these things that we're watching on TV, they are present in everyone. We just haven't been in touch with them. We just haven't really got to know that part. Like everyone has fears, everyone gets angry, everyone is happy, everyone is lonely at a certain point in the time. Like everyone experiences these things and they might not say it, but I think that was a big part of exploring all those things and feeling comfortable with all those things and knowing what things to kind of say, like, okay, you chill out, or like, hey, I would like to get to know this emotion or get to know these
Right.
experiences that I've gotten to get to know within myself, and also learn from other people that helped inform who I was as well. And I think that over that time, I got more comfortable with saying like, well, this is my idea of this character, and that preparation that I just did is going to be right here in front of you. And then if you like it or not, that's not up to me anymore, right? That's
Yeah.
up to you. So, but at the end of the day, too, I also feel like casting directors are rooting for that. They want to see that. They want to like champion that, and they don't ever the first thing in their head is not like, I hope this actor fails when they come into
No.
it. That's not.
No, not at all. I love actors, and most casting directors that I know do, and we want you to do well. We are rooting for you, and I think that's a true statement. People get a misconception that that's not true, but it is. Casting directors love actors, and I get so much joy out of it when I meet actors and I talk to them and I cast people and put together a great ensemble and put together a great team of actors. I feel like a proud mom almost when that happens. So
Yeah.
I love what I do as a casting director, and I just love, for me, it's helping actors is my thing. So that is true, that casting directors are on your side and they are rooting for you. So, and it's really important what you said, because you got to become comfortable in your own skin. You know what I mean? And we want you to be unique and be you, and whoever that is, that's part of what we like when you bring into a room. It's not trying to fit into some idea of what you think the character is. It's like, create the character, have fun, and like you're saying, learn from things you see and watch and observe people and have different emotions. And that's what we're looking for, your uniqueness, and that you can bring that into a room is so important. So I love it.
Well said. Well said.
Thank you. But I love that you figured that out, that you, in the beginning, you weren't totally doing that, and then it changed for you because you were aware of that. God, I'm not really bringing myself fully in a room because I'm too concerned.
Yeah, and you're shaking, and then you don't know how to be a person, and you don't know how to talk to, like, you start not knowing how to whether you might seem like it, then you're kind of you're I don't know. I think at the end of the day, we're all faking our way through everything that we do to a certain degree. But I started not even didn't know how to talk to people in a room, like specifically in the casting director room, because I was like, should I be this way or that way? It's just like, just make that decision, and and I think that for a lot of times it's going into the room, being yourself is really what people want to see, and you can look at other people and hear their stories, and at the end of the day, there's no one way. I think there's no wrong way and there's no right way. It's really what's the most effective way for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think we forget that, right? Because everyone's like, well, that's wrong. It's like, well, is it wrong if that person did it? You know what I mean? It's like, well, look, don't try and replicate what that person did. Just figure yourself out first, and figure out what is the most effective way for you to be this person that, or this type of actor that you feel that you can bring into the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Nobody else can do you but you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, you know what I'm saying? Somebody's out there going, oh, I got to be Meryl Streep. Nobody else can be Meryl Streep but Meryl Streep. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So nobody else can be Harry Shum Jr. but Harry Shum Jr. So it's like, you got to do you. And that's what I think people forget, That's why I think that whole thing you said about being unique and being yourself and bringing that in the room, that's what we want to see. We want authenticity,
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now talk about a little bit on any of these series, or Glee or Shadowhunters, or when you did Crazy Rich Asians. Is there anything unique about any of those in terms of the casting process that you want to share, or anything that was kind of cool or not cool?
No, I mean, all of them are completely different. I mean, I'll just kind of share the casting process of all three of them. The first, in Glee, it was, I remember it was on a Sunday. I auditioned on a Sunday. I came back, I was at a funeral on Saturday in San Francisco, and I got a call from my manager like, hey, they are interested in seeing you for this unknown role on the show, but they're casting on Sunday. And just kind of how the show works is just, it's a free for all. Like you're just one day you're like you might work on a Saturday, or
Yeah.
like a Sunday casting was normal for them, just because there's so many things happening. And so I came, and they're like, you have to sing a song, and then you have to read these Finn sides. So they weren't even for the actual character. So
Right.
I read them, and then I sang a song, and then I left. And then I learned by that time to just not even think about auditions after you finish them. You're just
Right.
like, it's out of your head.
Let him go.
And yeah, let them go. And then a week later, I got a call saying like, hey, they want to book you for one day. And I was like, oh, okay, cool, exciting, fun. And to preface it, the reason I knew about the show, because it hadn't come out yet, is my wife, my girlfriend at the time, but like my wife now, she was in the pilot, and she told me, it's like, this show is great. There's like so much dancing involved and singing. It's just like really funny. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like I had my mind on other things, and then one day started to roll over into a week, and then a week rolled over into a month, and then and then I started becoming like a regular part of the show, and I think part of it was patience, because like I was just part of this train that was so exciting and so fun, and I was just happy to be part of it. And over time, I got a little more and more and more, and I think the persistency of also me asking, like, constantly, like, not being overbearing, but showing enough on outside extracurricular activities like shorts and stuff like that to showcase like I can actually contribute. And I think that's when things started happening for Mike Chang. And then like Shadowhunters was just like an audition. I came in and read, and an interesting part is for that one, I look at myself and I probably shouldn't have gotten that show without the good grace of one of the producers, that I kept messing up. Like I don't know why, I just could not get it together. And
You kept messing up in the audition?
the lines in the audition. I just couldn't say the lines right. I don't know if I was nervous. I just for some reason I just couldn't say it. And he's like, it's okay. Do it again, and do it again. Like he probably saw something interesting, but knew that the nerves or something was not like it was just throwing me out for a loop. And it was just like, he's like, do it again. It's okay. Just do it. He was just patient with me. And then I finally, hit it. And all they needed was that one to send to, the studio, whatever. And I booked it from there. So, I mean, part of it is just aligning with the right people that
Right.
might be having a good day, or just might see like, there's something interesting here, and let's encourage instead of saying like, oh, you messed up, I'm so sorry, you can leave now, and then you might not never have gotten a chance. So I think a lot of it is also luck, patience, and also a good graces of someone on the other side that just gives you a chance over and over again.
Good for that producer for doing that. They're not all like that. Some are, and so
I mean, they're on it's time constraint. They're on there's so many things that it's like you can't hate anyone for saying like, I'm sorry, I don't got time for you. If you can't get it together, I can't have you on set and be doing that either, right? And I think also I think what's important is with that, it's like some people say like, well, you might have had previous work that would have helped, said like, okay, no, I know this person can do this. So I always emphasize the importance of making shorts, making those things that you have control of. So if they have seen it before, they're like, no, this person has something interesting. So if they get in a room, because auditioning and going on set, it's complete opposite. Auditions are a very unnatural thing.
Yeah.
It's so unnatural. And that. You're sitting there trying to make it as natural as possible, when this whole space that you're in to like get people to cast people is such a natural process, but like it is part of it, and it is something that is actually effective and to a certain degree to just be part of this thing that we're all trying to achieve, I guess, right? And going into production. But I'm thankful for that. And then lastly, CRA, Crazy Rich Asians, was, a big part of it was, I did Step Up 2 with John Chu, and,
Oh, yeah.
I had a great experience with him, and I worked with him in a couple different in smaller capacities, but on a different capacity, more as a choreographer and dancer. And when that movie came up, I wanted to be part of it. I love the books, and I auditioned about 3-4 times for it. Even knowing John, and at the end of the day, sometimes it matters, sometimes it doesn't. It's like
Yeah.
you still have to show that you can do this thing. It's not just because you're friends with someone, and sometimes that might work for a lot of people, but I don't know. It never feels good when you get booked for something just for being friends with someone. It's just like you want to be able to have the goods too.
Yeah, you want to earn it. Yeah.
You want to earn too, and putting a bunch of different auditions just wasn't right. And then finally he had this idea with Charlie Wu, who was a bigger part of the series, and it was just like a smaller part, but it was just, I had the best time. It was just like the coolest. It was one of the coolest experiences as an actor, just kind of seeing faces that look like mine, that were able to like really
Right.
dehumanize and just explode into, how it was as an observer, it was actually, that experience just felt like we're heading towards a better place.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that was really, really wonderful for me to see, and also happy to see like someone like John who worked his way into the industry, and seeing how he was collaborating with the producers and the actors, and seeing him in that grand space of a big budget movie was just really neat. So I look at all those experiences, and sometimes you're like, would I have gotten here if I didn't do those little things that
Yeah.
might have seemed like it wasn't heading towards a certain direction. And I think was the biggest lesson of all.
Yeah.
And it continues to be for me.
Yeah, because everything you do is part of the path. It's just,
Yes.
it's part of the path. So just go with it. And Crazy Rich Asians was such great exposure for Asians, and it was so well deserved. You know what I mean? So it was overdue, and it was so well deserved. So for everybody involved in that movie, I was so happy for. And I agree. I think the path, everybody should really take the lesson that it's just everything you do, like you said, is a step. It's a step. It's a step. And don't poo-poo anything,
Yeah, yeah. Absolutely.
Now you're okay, so you're in this movie that you're the lead, one of the leads of All My Life, which is on Amazon Prime. And how being the lead and setting the tone when you're like one or two on the call sheet and all that, what's that like? Because now you're sort of in the leadership role as an actor. How was that experience? What thoughts did you have about that?
Yeah, I think watching the process happen for so many years, and I think almost every project almost felt like it was new, because it was just, people have different processes of how they want to run a show, how they want to run a production, and also actors in front of you, they do it differently. Some like to rehearse, some don't like to rehearse. Like, it's just all these different things that you have to figure out how to adjust to service the story, and to service this movie, that in hopes that everyone's just wants to contribute in a way that is just going to make the movie the best it can be. And so being in kind of that role, like I look at those like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. But what does matter is what 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 like are looked at as, like, what is the tone that is going to be set on the set. It's not like hierarchy. It's not. It doesn't. I know it's been set that way because obviously the prominence of like whoever 1 and 2 is what's selling the movie. Blah blah blah. All that stuff. But we're gonna set that aside and just more talk about, like, they're setting the tone of, like, this is how we're gonna hopefully collaborate along with the directors, along with the producers, along with everyone else on set, with the crew. And when everyone else sees that happen, they're like, okay, that's the way we should interact with each other. But, and I think that's what I learned over time from seeing certain actors that I've been really inspired by, and then certain actors that I said, well, I'm not going to do that because that's just not a type of person I want to. That's the type of person I am, but also just it's not effective in getting everyone to do their best work. At the end of the day, that's what you just want. Everyone to come and do their best work, bring their best ideas, because at the end of the day, even if the movie is it's out of your hands when you're talking about how much it's going to make or how well it does, but if you can make a movie or a TV show that you're just incredibly proud of, if you keep carrying that over, that success is gonna come and happen, and you might not even realize it. But I think that just will set this precedence for you as an actor, that because word gets around, and that shouldn't be why you do it, but like word gets around, and some people, they just don't want to work with people that are difficult or in a way that doesn't. And I wouldn't say difficult, because I think that is a hard thing to say, because I think there's a lot of people who may not be able to communicate the concerns that they have and might be branded as difficult. And I think that's wrong. But I think what ends up happening is like learning how to communicate with people that come from different backgrounds, come from a different work environment, and figuring out how you can coexist for that period of time that you are together, to just service this thing that I think the most important is the story and the production in the movie.
Yeah, and it's really about being a team, being on a set, and you're working as a family for that period of time. So to me, I grew up on sets. My dad was a television director, so I spent a lot of time on there. So my dad was my big example for me. And I really saw that, that how you setting the tone, because during these times when you're on set, it's a family. You're a part of a team of people. So the idea is to obviously have fun and all that, but make it as professional but fun and enjoyable as possible. I'm sure you, me, we've all been in experiences where you've been on a set and it's like, ugh, and you're like,
yeah, and it's hard. It'll have its ebbs and flow, right? There's going to be moments where it's going to be grueling and it's going to suck, and you're going to want to, like, when is this over? Because no one wants to be in pain. But I think in certain aspects, like, how do you embrace that as knowing that is going to pass, and you will have these moments because you've set this up where the team is like trying to get through together, as opposed to like, well, I want to get the hell out of here, as opposed to like, well, let's all finish this thing together, so we can all get out of here and go home, so be refreshed to come and do the same thing, but hopefully have a good energy behind it. And not all, some stories don't call for that. If you're doing a super dramatic film of that's kind of really difficult subject matter, but at the end of the day, fun can still be had because you are doing what you love, and you're telling the story that hopefully will make an impact in the bigger picture.
100% agreed with that. Now, here's my next question. So, do actors, I get asked a lot, about actors who are first starting out, right? So what is your advice? Like, what advice would you give actors who are first starting out? Like, what do you think they should do, or what advice you would give them?
I mean, there's so many. It's always one of the harder questions of like, what should an actor do? I think going back to what we talked about and emphasizing, get to really know yourself first. I think what people, and I dealt with the same thing. You always look at the people that you're inspired by, and you're like, I want to be like them. And yes, that's a great thing to like have inspiration, because everyone has some certain inspiration, and kind of pluck off the things that you really love about them, and kind of let it digest, learn from like, how do they do that? How can I do that just as good? And then learning how to always constantly infuse yourself into it. So you're not becoming someone else that you aren't really, that's not really you. So it's always constantly, if you're inspired, I always use this technique. I'm like, oh, I love what this person is doing. It's like, how can I put myself in that, and how can I mix my own concoction? It's just like recipes. Like, you follow a recipe because you're going to need to learn that recipe, and then you're going to have to find it to the T, so you can at least know what that tastes like, and you can have that same experience of like, oh, that person made it this way, and it's like, well, I would have added this little thing and this little thing that's to my taste if I'm eating it myself. And when people say like cooking is a science, but also I think a lot of times you do it to your own taste and to your own flavor, to your own liking. And what happens there is like, you can call it your own now. And I think that's the same thing with I feel like with, in a lot of ways, with my acting career, it's just like, there's so many I can name like hundreds of people that I'm inspired by, and I still am inspired by. But it's just, I think that making sure that you have to know yourself first or you're going to start following this path that will be a lot harder to unwind later down the road. So that would be my best advice. Just get to know yourself as best as possible and be comfortable with yourself. So when you do move forward, you'll know your
like your unique elements.
And also like, where your boundaries are at the same time too. And I think this acting business, show business, whatever it's called, it's not just show, right? It's a business too. So getting to know the business side of it and how to talk to people, how to communicate your ideas, and also how to listen to other people's ideas, that is just as important as well, because you're not the most important thing in the process. Other people, it's funny, someone told me, it's like, you're not the lead of someone else's movie, meaning like someone, you know what I mean? Like they're the lead of their own movies. You know what I mean? Like they're not looking at you as you're the lead of their movie. You know what I mean? Like, so everyone is in some way, shape thinking of that, because they go home they sleep in their body, they're in their body. So like, I think if you are mindful of that, then you're able to at least have this openness of collaboration, which at the end of the day, that's what acting is. You can't act by yourself, so that's a big part of it.
Absolutely. I love that. And Harry, how did like, I know along your path there was no's, like, you didn't get jobs you wanted, right? So how did you deal with it? Like, what did you do when you didn't get the gig? Like, a lot of people don't know how to handle the rejection, which is part of it, unfortunately. But
yeah, after either a couple of days or a couple of weeks of depression, you it's a natural thing, and I think that's why it's like, if you get to know, and going back again, you get to know yourself a little more, that like certain things are out of your hands, even though as much as you wanted it. But if it's persistency, all these things on top, that it's so hard to like list out, like, I need to do this, I need that. But I think once you conquer certain things, other things are going to be easier to tackle. And for me, it was just like, you start analyzing things like, why didn't I get that? But it's okay to not beat yourself up, but to look at, like, again, like auditing yourself, like, okay, I didn't get it because it's out of my control, but what could I have done to better my chances next time? Or look back like, oh, I could have done this better, but not in a way to beat yourself up, but to more of uplift yourself, like, well, okay, well, let me work on that. Let me get better at that. And not for the sake of pleasing other people, but the fact of like, you are your biggest challengers, challenging yourself. It's challenging you, and not saying like, well, that person is getting it, and maybe I can be more like them. I think you start going a really, really dangerous kind of path if you start doing that. It's just like, keep figuring yourself out as much as possible. And over time, when I kept doing that, the depression and all that started to like lower in days, and sometimes there's moments where like you didn't get something, you're like, it's not because I didn't care, it's like, yeah, I wanted to get it, but it's like, okay, there's something that happened here that maybe was in my control or out of my control, but I can't overanalyze that at the end of the day, because there's just so many other things that you can contribute to that are out there. I would rather spend my time looking out for the things that can align with me and what I can contribute than forcing my way into something that clearly wasn't right for me,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah, and it's about basically what you said. It's about the constructive criticism, but it's analyzing it in a way that not to beat yourself up, but it's analyzing to go, well, did I fully prepare? Did I make the choices? Did I do what I want to do? And if you did, move on. And if you didn't, like you said, then okay, good. Next time I got to work harder. I got to work harder on the role,
And it's case by case.
Right.
I think we forget that. You can't generalize it. Like you don't do that for every single role. It's like some certain ones where you're like, well, I didn't get it. Someone's like, why didn't I get that? Let me take a look at this. Let me write it down. Let me figure things out. And then you come to the conclusions like, well, I just wasn't right for it. And then you put it to the side, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So and also what I found interesting is so many, like, if you're talking about directors, producers, or even casting directors, that I think most actors know this, that you might not be right for, but what you did was put forth good work, and that'll be remembered for,
right.
Down the line, and that's why it's like, just be yourself, because and I think that is the most important thing out of all this.
Yeah, it's so true, Harry, it really is, because people don't know there's so many factors that go into casting, you know what I mean? And how people match up, and how the director's vision and the producers and how they see things, and how this one relates to this one, and the best friend, and they look good together. There's so many factors that you can't control, like you said. So, like you said, you just do the best. You go in, you do your best work, and you go, thank you, and you let it go.
Yeah, and I would be remiss to not say, like, I think the hard part, and it's always been hard to bring up, because a lot of times I am an actor, and I like to be seen as an actor. But I think the harder part is being seen as an Asian actor, right? Mm-hmm. An Asian American actor. And I just remember one producer on a show I was on would tell me, just straight up told me, it's like, if you were white, you would have made it already. And I was like, why would you tell me that? No, they told me that just casually. And I just, it was that part of it when I think that's why when we talk about actors, we want to talk about the craft, and we talk about that. That's what I enjoy talking about. Like, I never like put myself in position to only talk about, like, I don't want to talk about race all the time. No. But unfortunately, that's the barrier sometimes that has to be that I have to deal with. Like, and so the reason I say that is I think there's a lot of to encourage a lot of actors that are people of color that just stick to it, persistency. Keep going, learn as much about the craft, learn as much about the business, and you might have to navigate it differently. But you still, like, don't give up. And as hard as it is, sometimes it takes a little longer, and but just be smart about all your decisions, and those are the things that, unfortunately, hopefully, we don't have to deal with as much looking to the future. And I think we're heading into the right direction, but so much work needs to be done. But those things that you've gone through are gonna help in the future, because you're gonna like, if you get that number one, number two, you're gonna be a little more mindful of things because you've went through it and you've experienced it. And I think that is a big part of kind of what we all bring differently to the table as actors. And that's the beauty of it. If we can start coexisting and learn from each other, we can make some beautiful art.
Yeah, well said, Harry. Well said. And it's true. I think diversity and all different types of people and races now, there's much more. People are much more open to it. People, actors Absolutely. With disabilities, it doesn't matter your ethnicity, it doesn't matter your gender, it doesn't matter if you're non-binary, it doesn't matter any of that anymore. It's about casting people of all different races and different types of people, because the world is a melting pot of people, and it should be shown on film and television,
Absolutely. We should keep seeing those stories and encouraging those stories to be told and hopefully, I know a lot of times casting directors want to do the right thing but they're also they have a whole wall of people to deal with, and sometimes I have a lot of respect for a lot of casting directors because the work that you all do is sometimes goes unnoticed. Especially in like when you watch bigger movies that you're just like, oh, you fell in love with a certain type of actor, and you hear about the story how like no one else wanted them, but the casting director was pushing for them and trying to get them because they just saw this vision to work, and trying to work with the director and the producers to get them to see this special thing that this actor that might be so different and off kiltered, and that they usually wouldn't have, or studios wouldn't have, casted. So, I think keep doing the good work, and I think it's great to have these conversations, candid conversations, so people are hearing from different perspectives.
Yeah, and you know what? I agree because I try really hard. Let me tell you something. Sometimes I win the battle, and sometimes I don't.
Yeah, yeah. That's life. That's life.
That's life, right? It's I fight hard sometimes when I feel it could be any way, or this actor has potential and they weren't originally how they saw it, or why can't this role be black? Why can't it be Asian? Who cares? And I think being passionate about our points of view is really important as casting directors and as actors and anybody. And so I try my hardest when I'm working with producers and directors. And a lot of times, I work with great people who are really open. So that's what I like, because I want to keep creating and making it very diverse out there, because I think that's important.
That's awesome.
So, okay, before we end off, because this is so amazing and it's been awesome. I'm going to ask you one question that somebody asked a bunch, and I wanted to answer it for them, which is they wanted to know, what's your favorite thing about being an actor?
My favorite thing about being an actor, I think it's being put in situations where I never would be in if I wasn't an actor, and that's kind of like being in the shoes of another person. I view these characters as just other people that I get to know, I get to meet, be very intimate with, and do research on their background and what. From there, I learned a lot more empathy towards a lot of different people that I don't think I would have ever been in contact with if I wasn't an actor. Because I think if you're doing it for the purpose of being famous and the purpose of getting a lot of money, then I think that just, if you do the things that actually matter and work, all that might not come, but at least you can live with yourself and knowing that like you did your best to for another human being. Even though we look at fictional characters, it's just, or even if you're playing someone who exists in real life, like even in All My Life, you want to honor this person that does exist in this world, right? In this reality that we call in film or in TV, and I look at them no different than someone who has existed in our reality. And for me, that's the best part, is this empathy that I hopefully can continue to keep learning about things that I might have not known about, or maybe in going through things that make me feel a little uncomfortable at the same time. And the uncomfortable is just the unknown. At the end of the day, it's like, well, if you know it, then you know how to navigate through it, and you know how to speak to it, and that has just really informed me to hopefully strive to be a better human being at the end of the day.
I love that. That's so beautiful. Thanks, Harry. That's awesome. And okay, and here's my last question. Is there anything else that you would like to say out there? If you have a lot of fans, a lot of people are like, I love you, Harry. Yes, we've been doing this. There, you're amazing. A lot of kudos, which I 100% agree with. So is there anything else you would like to say before we end off?
Yeah, I think like I think this past like 2 years, man, it's just like if you're here, you're watching this, like you made through it, you made, or even if whatever the past, however old you are, the past 10, 12 years, 20 years, 30 years, like, dude, you made it here. Like, just embrace this, embrace your past, embrace the moment that you're in right now, and just be thankful that we get to have the ability to communicate these ideas and our thoughts to each other. And if not, if it's like harder for you, then learn how to, because I think that's the only way we can really service ourselves and the people that we love. So it might seem like a non-actory answer, but I believe it is. Because I think so many actors are so hard on themselves, and in certain moments you should be, because you should push harder, but certain moments you should just ease off the gas pedal and just put the brakes for a little bit and just give yourself a hug. So I think that's important, just as much as sometimes when you do like slap yourself in the face to get it together. I think you need a little bit of that, as long as you're not hurting yourself long term. All that is done within balance.
Yeah, but it's true, Harry, what you're saying. We need to validate ourselves for the rightnesses, It's
Mm-hmm.
too many people, too many of us beat ourselves up, and instead of, you can slap yourself in the face every once in a while if you...
Yeah, you have to. Yeah,
you have to, that's
you have
okay,
to.
but also remember to validate yourself for the good stuff, that
Yeah,
you do.
exactly.
So, Harry, this is so amazing, and I could talk to you for another hour.
It was wonderful. So good connecting with you, Lisa.
Yeah, Harry, thank you so much. Such a pleasure. I will save this live on the IGTV. I appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you in person very soon.
Yes, you too. You too. Thank you so much, Lisa.
Yeah.
And good luck with everything in the future. Hopefully, I could be in the same room with you and
Yeah.
and redeem myself from that last time.
No, there's no redeeming. It was all good, Harry. Really, you're doing really good, man. And yeah, best. I know you're working on lots of projects and things, so fingers crossed, all that's going to happen soon, and we will chat very soon.
All right. Thanks, Lisa.
Okay, bye.
Have a good day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.